Welcome to the CoDaKrew podcast, a show where we analyze the latest storylines, updates, and transfers of the Premier League. When we posted our very first video a year ago, it was a table prediction, so today, Swapnil and I have decided to run it back with our full, comprehensive 2025 to 2026 Premier League table predictions. We are recording this as of August 2nd, and we will obviously be doing speculation on how the rest of the transfer window plays out, so if you're watching this later, it's possible that some of our information will be outdated. Of course, if you enjoy the content, feel free to leave us a like and sub, and if you want to play along, feel free to use the comments down below. So with that being said, Swapnil, in the 2025-26 season, which team will have the misfortune of placing 20th in the Premier League?
Yeah, I guess we're getting into it straight away. I will say the first thing is I think 20th place is going to have to be one of these teams that's just been promoted from the championship. Sunderland, Burnley, or Leeds. I think the gap between championship and Prem, as we've talked about in previous episodes, as I know lots of people have talked about in the football space, is just so big. Like, I'm sure at minimum two of these teams are going to go down, and I think 20th place is going to be one of them as well. So between those three, I'm unfortunately going to have to say that the Stadium of Light is only lasting a season in the Prem, and Sunderland will be back down to the Championship by season's end. I mean, they're coming back into the Prem after nearly a decade away now, only to face one of football's most unforgiving dilemmas. They're coming out of the Championship playoff final, and that jump from the playoffs to playing the elite of the Premier League in August is brutal, more brutal than ever. And it is brutal both mentally and financially. I mean, we've seen the kind of spending that Sunderland has been doing lately under manager Labrie. They've spent 130, 140 million pounds to bring in Prem and international experience. They've got obviously Granit Xhaka, Simona Dingra, Reynildo, a Diarra as well. It's smart recruitment, but it just goes to show like how far behind they are that they have to be doing this much spending immediately on their way in. Xhaka's the standout. He is a Bundesliga champion, of course. He can bring leadership, composure, and set piece gravity. But like normally, he would be someone you can unleash on struggling sides under pressure. The problem is now he is on the struggling side. This is no Leverkusen. This is Sunderland he's playing for. They are fighting to not get sent straight back down to the second tier. And there are obviously other gaps in the team as well. I mean, we have Joe Bellingham, who went off to Dortmund just like his brother. And so now Sunderland's strike force remains a bit unproven at the top level. And I don't think the preseason hints have really impressed either, because these early friendlies, they've revealed some rust. And if these other promoted teams, Leeds, Burnley, and some of the other relegation contenders, which I'll mention later, if they're able to outmaneuver not Burnley, if they're able to outmaneuver Sunderland early on, they are at high risk of being the first ones to fall and go straight back down to the championship.
Yeah, I'm going to have to easily agree with you. I think it's a pretty obvious prediction to have the championship team that goes up through the playoffs to be 20th place, but I think it's the obvious pick here. I know, obviously, the standings do look a little bad for them because they lost their last 5 games where they rested after knowing that they weren't able to compete. But even then, like, assuming they win all that, they're what, like 10 points behind Leeds and Burnley? So, yeah, I mean, like, just from the highest level, you see that there is a bit of a gap there if you're just looking at the table. You don't have to do any real analysis to see that. And even with the style that they play, I think there are a lot of issues. The biggest one for me is the goal scoring. I think in order to stay up in the Prem, you need to have like an Ivan Toney type player, somebody who can just be transformative, who will just be able to find goals on a rainy night in Stoke or whatever, and just find a way. Because that's really how teams that get promoted stay up. And I don't see anyone like that for the Sunderland squad. William Isidore was their top goal scorer with just 12 goals in a 46-game season, and the team in total scored 58 goals. Isidore, by the way, I think it was like 15 xG on his shot, so not only is he not scoring that much as their biggest scorer, but he's quite unclinical, and that's going to be a big problem in the Prem. So that's the thing, and then also tactically, they're going to have to be a lot more cautious. They're going to have to park the bus, right? I think one of their best players, their right back in Trey Hume, he was very high pushing last year. He, I think, was like 6 goals, 3 assists in the championship, but he's not going to be able to show that creativity now because they're going to need him on the defense. So I just don't think the Sunderland squad is built very well to compete in a Premier League where they have to play not as a upper table team competing for the title, but as a lower table team competing to just survive.
Yeah, I think for Hume the stats might have been switched. I'm not sure if you said 6 goals, 3 assists. I think it might have been 3 and 6. But yeah, like he can't make all those plays now. And like you said, Isidore, top scorer. He scored 12. Mayenda was second, and he I think scored 8 in the championship. It's not looking great for their offense, and like you said, you've got to score goals in the Prem, and I just don't think they'll be able to do that. I mean, they're bringing in shot like the talents they have here, as much as they have managed to do, and I think really the spending they've done in this transfer window is all you really can do as a team that's coming up from the championship. I just don't think it's going to be enough. The roster wasn't quite there to begin with. Of course, they are the playoff team, which means they would have had some trouble getting through anyways, as opposed to Leeds and Burnley, who both finished on 100 points, and obviously they were pretty dominant for that season. So they might have an easier time. But Sunderland, I think they just had too much on their hands. And yeah, unfortunately, like I didn't tout them much to get through this season. Like even when we found out that they were going to get promoted, I know your supercomputers, Darian, had them with like a 99
Well, I
point
mean, listen,
something
I'm
percent
not
chance of
using I'm
going
not
down.
using any models for this. I'm just
Yeah,
going based off
but
last year.
everyone else's models have them going down too. I'm seeing most places have them in 20th, and I'm just gonna have to agree.
I think Rock AI said they were gonna be 17th, which just makes it even more obvious that they'll be relegated.
Great, great.
If
So
anything,
you have Grok on your side.
yeah,
Elon's
you
there
got
for you.
you got Grok on your side. So you're congratulations, Stadium Light. You're cooked.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately, this was the obvious pick for 20th. But for 19th, I'm going to say I've got Burnley here. They are coming back into the Prem with a team that is built for survival. Not spectacle like they had last season. Like I said, 100 points in the championship, a pretty glorious season, albeit somehow in second place still. But Premier League reality checks come fast. I mean, they've reinforced sharply. They have permanent deals for Humphreys, Anthony, Edwards, and new signings like Hartman, Kyle Walker, of course. They are a structured core with a few pretty bright additions. But again, there's just like so much on their plate for really all of these teams coming up from the championship. There's questions up front. I mean, they don't have much in the striker position. I feel like they've got Ashley Barnes, who is a legend for the club, but he's also 35 years old. They do have Amdouni coming back from Benfica, and he did pretty well there, but the Liga Portugal is not on the level of the Prem. Also, the back line for Burnley was so strong last season, something like 30 clean sheets. They just can't hold that up now. I mean, James Trafford had some great displays last season, but he's
And he's
back with
gone.
Man City. And their new signing Weiss from I think Karlsruhe one of the teams in like second tier Germany. He's a promising signing, but he's just not going to be able to match what Trafford managed to do. And so, unfortunately, like with Sunderland, I think the roster strength just isn't quite there for the Clarets. And because I think they had more to build off of coming into the Prem, I'm going to put them 19th, but I still have them going down.
Yeah, I once again agree with you. I think Burnley is also going to be finishing 19th for me. Actually, when we started at the end of last season, when it was Burnley and Leeds that were automatically promoted, I think at the time I said on the channel that Burnley has the highest chance of any of the teams to stay up. But at that time, I assumed that they were going to be able to keep James Trafford, easily the best goalkeeper in the championship last year. This Burnley squad only conceded 16 goals in a 46-game season, which is very impressive. But I think they conceded something like 28 or 29 expected goals on target, which just goes to show how much of that was James Trafford just being that guy for that squad. And as you're saying, Max Weiss, I think he could potentially be solid, but it's obviously a big step going from from like the second tier of the Bundesliga to the Premier League. That's going to be a big issue for them. And as we're saying, similarly to Sunderland, you need to score goals to stay up in the Premier League. They have. It seems like they're going to likely sign Armando Broja to help out with that offense, but it's still going to be a very big ask for them. I think they were a very, I don't want to say defensive, but very solid playing team, which can be helpful in the Premier League. But I think does sort of show that they're not really ready yet to compete in the way that I think, the established Premier League teams can.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like that star, like maybe I could have them finishing 18th instead of 19th. But now that Trafford is gone, like there are such big shoes to fill for Weiss, and it's like from Zweite Bundesliga to trying to play like Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool. Like it's just not gonna
Oh
work out,
boy.
man. Like I think even Trafford might have had some issues, but now they're just it's over for them. Like I don't really give them. I know I have them 19th and not 20th, but I don't give them much of a chance of getting out of the bottom three either.
Yeah, I mean,
And
also like it's also the playing style too, right? I think like you can't just be that conservative, that low lying, while not really try to counter, not really trying to play super progressively in such a like fast paced system
yeah,
as the Premier League. I think there's a lot of tactical switches that have to be made. I don't know if they can manage that.
they need a score. They won't be able to score much, I don't think. Not nearly as much as they need to. I think they're just gonna have like a pretty bad goal difference, and they're just gonna plop right out of the Prem. 19th place is what I got them.
All
18th.
right. Oh
18th is an
boy,
interesting one.
I'm
I
scared.
think
I'm scared of
again,
what you're gonna
remember,
say.
I said at least two teams will be going down. Like two of the promoted teams will be going down. I do actually think Leeds will stay up. I
I agree. I agree, brother.
yeah. Now, see
Yes.
the question. Honestly, there are quite a few teams who I think potentially could go down here. Leeds obviously is a contender. I'm gonna say that they are the one team that manages to stay up, and in 18th place, I'm going to have Wolves going down.
Whoa.
Wolves.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
serious about that. Okay, obviously,
I mean, I see it losing what eight Nori and Cooney. Yeah, I see
yeah.
it. Explain.
No, it's and like there are other contenders, and I'm gonna mention them. But for now, Wolves' season, 25-26 season, hinges on two things. I think they've lost Cunha, who is responsible for almost half of their goals, or like a really high percentage of their goals. I know that much, and had some great deliveries. And they have replaced him with signings that are unproven or just short-term fixes. Uh, Cunha's exit leaves a creative vacuum in this team. I think Wolves they dropped like 50% in their XG depending on when he started versus when he didn't. It was like 1.5 or 1.6 versus zero point 0.8 in the games he started versus the games he didn't start. It is a big difference in production. And like you said, they sold 8 Nori to City, so that wide speed and width has evaporated as well. And that leaves them kind of thin in the transition. Their counter-attacking identity could collapse without reinforcements of similar quality. And so they've brought in what? Fur Lopez, they've got Strand Larson, John Arias. They're talented, but none of them quite fill Cunha's irreplaceable directness on the attack. And Vitor Pereira, he might be able to adapt, but I don't think he can replicate what they managed with Cunha last season. I think the expectations without him are pretty tempered. There's going to be a more pragmatic approach, not as much flamboyancy. And ultimately, I think this team is going to have a similar issue to Sunderland and Burnley, not quite on the same level, but they won't be able to score enough and they will go down.
I mean, so it was the last 2 years in a row that we had the three teams that go up come down, and this year we're both saying it's gonna break. I don't have Wolves in 18th place. You want to take a stab at which Premier League team I have going down?
I think you've said a bit about this team before. I think it's got to be one of two teams, but I'm going to say
Okay.
Brentford.
Yeah, it's Brentford.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I feel like losing Thomas Frank is just too much of a loss. And obviously, like Brian Mbeumo's gone, Johan Wissa is about to leave, Norgard's gone to Arsenal. Mark Flecken even they're one of the best goalkeepers last season. I think he's
Not
gone too.
not a
So,
good
I mean,
window for them.
that's pretty
Yeah.
big. Those were some big losses. And so I've looked at what they're gonna do. I think they've given a bid for Arnold Culimendo as a replacement. He was pretty solid in League One last year, but I just feel like there's the shoes there that you're trying to fill with both Emblemo and Wissa is just too big, especially with I mean like Thomas Frank as well. This guy was one of the best managers in the entire Premier League. There's a reason why everybody wanted him. And now they're replacing him with fucking Keith Andrews. I don't even know who this guy is. I searched him up. His last managerial gig before this was 13 years ago. Like, he hasn't managed a team since the Republic of Ireland, which he got sacked
Wait,
from in
are you
2012.
hold on. Okay, I'm looking at his Wikipedia.
I'm,
Wait.
I'm just, I have
he
questions
was
about
just
this.
an assistant there. He was like an
He was
assistant
even
on
starting.
various teams.
He
I
was
don't
even
even know.
starting. Oh my god.
Assistant manager to Milton Keynes Dons? Hell no.
Oh god. Yeah,
God.
I'm.
Okay.
I don't know, Brentford. I don't know. It's not looking good for you guys. It's not looking good. I mean, the reason I was a bit apprehensive about this was because last year they lost Ivan Toney, and I think a lot of people expected them to have a rough season. But then they had Brian Mbeumo, they had Yohan Wissa, who were able to step up for them and make sure that they still had a good season. But I feel like they're really running thin here on replacements for who can carry that weight for them. I mean, I'm like again, even if they sign Kalimando, I'm not sure that he'll be that good. They do have Igor Thiago, they do have Carvajal. I don't know. I mean, they're gonna have to have breakout seasons. They were just kind of mid, I think, for them last year as well. And then, of course, they still have some solid options. Mikhail Damsgaard was like I think top 3 or 4 assists in the Premier League, something like that last year. Kevin Schad, Sepp van den Berg. But I just think that having a good manager is so important now in the Premier League. And when you're replacing Thomas Frank with some bumfuck who hasn't managed the club in 13 years, that's gonna be a very big problem for them.
Yeah, I don't know. From Frank to this is such a big change. And I'm not gonna say where I have Brentford just yet, but definitely a relegation contender for me. I think in that case we can move on to the teams who we think will just avoid relegation. Yeah. I'm going to start with 17th, of course. And I'm going to say Leeds end up here. In 17th, I feel like there's still a club in transition. They're kind of almost like they're kind of still working past that relegation 22-23. And this season I think they'll be barely scraping by it. They'll barely manage to find a team that will keep them in the Prem. Maybe even like next season they go down. But for now I think they just barely stay up. It's not a confident return for them. I mean, really, like any team that comes up from the championship has a lot to worry about. Like I don't think they have the consistency to breathe easy or anything, but like they'll manage to score enough, I think. In the Prem, like they do not maybe not have as much in the back line, probably a bit weak in the midfield as well, and so I could see them leaking goals. But I just think the difference between Leeds and like Sunderland, Burnley, maybe Wolves is that I think they'll be able to produce enough goals that they can stay up. They're still lacking like top flight resilience. So again, I think they'll manage just because I feel like Wolves are not gonna do too well. Like I don't think Leeds are gonna play that well for themselves either, but I'm just gonna say they scrape by. So I've got them in 17th. Again, could they
I
go down?
All
Absolutely,
right.
but like
I mean, we're gonna have to talk about Wolves again. Like, I feel like you're being a little bit disrespectful here with the Wolves
okay,
relegation.
maybe.
I don't know. I like I see them struggling. I don't. I just feel like relegation is maybe a little much. Here's the thing for Leeds. I think you obviously have to spend a lot of money to try to stay up. Uh, if you're going up from the championship to the Prem, especially nowadays. And I think they have spent their money very, very efficiently. So I think the best example of this is Lucas Perry, one of the best goalkeepers in Ligue 1 last year for Lyon. And when you compare that to, like, for example, Burnley having just lost their amazing goalkeeper compared to Leeds, who's signing someone like Lucas Perry, I think that does show a difference in the style that these teams are going for as they come up into the Prem. And I also think Leeds United's system in general is maybe a bit better for survival in the Premier League. They have players like Ayo Tanaka, Anton Stach that they just signed as well, who have been very solid, good distributors, and I think are pretty calm under pressure. And they've managed to hold on to that defensive duo of Ethan Impadu and Pascal Stroyek. I think their defense was quietly one of the best parts of the team, despite the fact that they were a lot more offensively minded. So I think they'll be much more capable of dropping back, parking the bus, and adapting to the system that they'll have to in the Premier League compared to the other other teams from the Championship that are coming up.
Okay, so then you have Leeds in 17th as well. I'm guessing. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Yep, fair enough. Uh, 16th place. Here's another one of my relegation contenders. I'm gonna
Okay.
have West Ham here.
Whoa, wow, okay.
This
I
like
also have West Ham. That's
I
crazy. I
feel
don't know
like
what's
this team
happening. We did not communicate beforehand. This is
we did not, but I feel like
oh boy.
this team is just drifting. Like there's no identity here anymore. Post Moyes, this is a club. It's not like rebuilding. It's not competing. It's just there. Like when we were talking about, obviously everyone was ragging on Man U and Tottenham, right? Because they were in the bottom half. Like
Right.
very like they weren't going to get relegated last season because of the points differential, but like they were sitting there in the places of shame, 16th and 17th. And then, I don't know, Man U managed to get a bit higher up. West Ham, no one even talked about West Ham. Like they're also just sitting down there with Manchester, Tottenham. No one cares what they're doing.
Yeah, I feel like coming into last season, they were expected to be like a mid upper mid table team,
Right.
and then
And then
no one talked about it. They dropped the
they
ball.
just went all the way down and people just forgot about them. It's like because they're doing nothing. I don't know. You just don't hear anything from West Ham. They've still got talent, but I feel like the squad is a bit mismatched. I mean, you have players like Bowen who could easily get top half placements with top half teams. Of course, they had Kudus. He's off to Spurs. I think that's pretty deserving, though you can definitely question whether Tottenham will be top half by season's end, given what happened last season. But again, like they have these star players, but the structure around them is flimsy. The defense has regressed badly, and even though they brought in a few stopgaps last season, I don't think any of them really changed the spine of the team. Again, they like I just don't feel like they put in much effort. Their tactical setup seems kind of outdated. The recruitment has not really been there. There's also that cloud of uncertainty after around Paketa, like he's coming back, but now he might leave again. There's not really a done deal, but just like the feeling that his head has been turned and he's like looking elsewhere. And I don't think West Ham are going to be able to hold on to him much longer. Also, who is going to be their big goal scorer? Like we saw earlier today, actually, that they have Callum Wilson coming in on a free from Newcastle. But even with all his talent, he's just not reliable, unfortunately, given his injury record. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it has to be said. So if you can't rely on him to be around, is Bowen going to be the one scoring all the goals again? And if so, I just don't think this team is going to get much further than it did last season. A lot is going to depend on whether they can shore up the midfield and the backline before the window closes. Again, I feel like there really hasn't been much transfer activity from these guys. And if they can't manage that, I think they will leak goals. And without a proper striker, they're going to be a lot closer to relegation than they'd like.
Yeah, I think when they brought in what's his name, the fucking striker, Max whatever. I think the expectation was that he was going to bring them. I think to upper mid table, he was going to be very solid. Nicholas Fulkrug. I don't know why. I don't know what just happened there. My brain is completely farted. My brain is completely farted. But I don't know. He's not been very good for them. As you're saying, Jared Bowen has really been the main guy up front, providing all the goals. He's the top goal scorer and the top assister for this team by pretty wide margins for both. And yeah, this team just doesn't have a lot of depth. Losing Kudos as well is a big loss. I think by 24-25, they were not utilizing Kudos very well either, like just tactically speaking. But they're leaking players, I think. I We'll see how their signings do. They did get Talibo, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I think in order to do well in the Premier League, you have to be making moves every year. And West Ham, again, as you're saying, they have not done much in the transfer window so far. And if they stay up, I think it will just mostly be because, again, there's that big financial value disparity between the Premier League teams and the Championship teams. And also, like, I guess there are some good spots here. I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka had a pretty decent season last year, but there's just too many holes in this team. They need to do more. Nothing's really happening. And like we don't even really hear rumors about the squad.
Yeah,
They're signing anyone anyways. They're gonna sign what fucking like Mateus Fernandez from fucking Southampton for like there's just they're just not going. They're just not being ambitious.
right. Like I feel like a lot of these relegation contenders I've been listing is where oh maybe they just barely stay up. It's like 17th or 16th place or whatever. I feel like a lot of them are not doing it on their own merit, but rather just because the championship to Prem differential is so fucked right now, and Like they can get away like West Ham. I think that is like the epitome of this is they can just get away with basically doing nothing because a team like Sunderland can spend 140 million pounds and still end up going down in like 19th to 20th place. So I don't know. I just don't see this team doing much of anything this season. Maybe they have a decent cup run, but they get eliminated in like the quarters or something, and people forget they ever did anything there. And in the Prem, they're just going to be the guys that are sitting at the bottom of the table. They will be ahead of like those championship teams, like I said, but they're not going to do anything. It's not like Man U or Tottenham where it's, oh, this is a big six team. How could you possibly be doing this? It's West Ham. Just let them be, I guess. You know? I guess then we move on to 15th place, and I'm wondering if we maybe have a switch between who we had in 15th and 18th. Because you had Brentford going
Sure,
down, and I have them
I
here.
did.
Right.
Well, I mean, I do have Wolves a bit higher than
A bit
15th,
higher? Okay.
a bit
All
higher,
right.
but
So Brentford, they were pretty safe in the mid-table last season, right? But there's a lot to be concerned about right now. The key here is obviously Thomas Frank is gone. He could get quite a bit out of a limited group. He's not managing them anymore, so it's kind of questionable. And again, I will say this is the last team that I really have as a relegation contender on my list. So like I could see these guys going down and oh maybe Wolves place like 15th, 16th instead. But I don't think anyone's calling this a mid-table team right now. Mbuemo's gone. Wissa seems like he's likely to follow. The squad depth is not there, and the whole attack is going to suffer for it. I do think, and the reason I have them up here, one other thing I will say 17th, 16th, 15th, I have pretty close. Maybe they don't place 15th. Maybe there's like 16th or 17th. The reason I think they don't get relegated is in terms of starting 11 and bench players, I think they have a significant lead over obviously the promoted teams, but some of the other ones down here as well. Damsgaard had a great breakout last season. They've kept the spine with him, Jensen, Janelt, I think. They have Shada, who had a pretty strong performance last season. Igor Tiago is coming back, and he can finally show off his strengths. Who knows, he might do well as well. And there's additions in the back with Coyote, and of course, I've got to back my guy Keller as well. I think if these key players can stick around, there's enough grit and defensive discipline to keep them above the drop. Maybe they don't have to score as much, but if they can manage not to leak goals like these other teams I think might end up doing, they can maybe get by. Though if we get a bad run of injuries, they could be in serious danger because again, they're just really lacking that squad depth. And so this is where I have them for now. 15th I think is pretty optimistic for them. They'll be just like teetering on the edge. Maybe they even end 17th, but I think ultimately they manage to avoid relegation.
I still think a player like Igor Thiago, for example, is a really big question mark. Will he be able to fill in the gap that Brighton Mbeumo, that Johan Wissa is leaving? I mean, I could see them finishing 15th if things go well with them. If someone like Thiago does have a good season, then I can see it. But I don't know. It's really the manager. That's like the biggest worry for me. But you're saying that basically there's these six teams that you think are relegation candidates,
Yeah,
and I have
pretty
somebody
much.
else in 15th. I think there's a seventh team that are low key
Okay.
relegation candidates and that nobody's talking about, and that is the Cherries. I'm worried about them. I'm worried. They lost their entire back line, dude. They lost their keeper. They lost Kirkes. They lost Houchin, and it sounds like they're gonna lose the Barney to PSG as well. So I don't know, man. Those are some tough shoes to fill. So here's what I'm looking at. So they do have Petrovic. He's coming back, and I think he will be a decent replacement for Kappa. Sure, I guess. And then they have Adrian Trufford. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to fill in the role for Perkins. I highly doubt it, to be quite honest. And as for the center backs replacements, they've tried to sign Achimpom, Margehi, Jan Bisek, but nobody. It doesn't seem like they're very close to getting a final deal with any of them so far. Obviously, there's still time left, but that's a very big concern for me in terms of the Bournemouth squad. The good thing for them, though, is I think the midfield and the offense has been left intact. They have Evan Nielsen, Dango Uratra, Antoine Semenyo, who I think were very solid last year, very dynamic as well. But when you have that weakened backline, I think that those players are going to have to be more defensive and won't have the same fluidity, the same freedom that they had last year, and that could potentially hurt them as well. I'm not saying that they're going to be again. Obviously, I don't have them being relegated. I don't think the chance of them being relegated is super high, but I don't know. Whenever you lose your entire back line like that, it's just tough to replace it. And having a good defense was so important to the Bournemouth identity. Everyone was gushy about how good their midfield and their offense is, but I think without the solid back line, that's not possible. Evan Nielsen, Semenyo being as good as they were would not have been possible.
Yeah, okay, that's actually fair. And I guess we can go to 14th place now then, because I actually have Bournemouth here. I mean, they were one of the surprise packages last season. Under Iraola, they have transformed into basically a vertical machine, press oriented, and that commitment to front foot football paid off. You had players like Semenyo, Kluivert, who were thriving in transition and also in broken play. But now the question is, can it last? Because you have these key departures that are testing that sustainability. Milos Kerkez, so important in the build-up and transition defense. He's off to Liverpool. Howson, who also offered real composure and build-up, he's off to Madrid. And Petrovic's arrival brings some optimism after Kepa leaving, but now, like you said, Zabarny might be off to PSG, which is going to cause yet more problems with the backline. And so I won't say too much on Bournemouth. I think you discussed enough, but for me, 14th feels like a reasonable spot. They'll score enough to win key matches, but not consistently enough to push them into the top half. And I think it's going to be a bit of a backslide from last season for them.
Yeah, and obviously you know who I'm gonna have. I think, yeah, obviously this is where I have Wolves. They cannot be any higher than 14th. I really felt like Wolves. Honestly, just the five here: Wolves, Bournemouth, West Ham, Leeds, and Brentford. For me, it's very tough to rank them. I think. The reason I have Wolves higher than the other teams though is I think that they're going to be a little bit more adaptive to losing Cunha than and Eight Nori than some of these other teams are to the players that they're losing because. Besides West Ham, who's just bad, every other team that's a relegation candidate here, it's because they're losing one or more key components to what made the team successful last year. It's quite interesting. A lot of these teams are actually like these are like upper mid table teams last year that we're now saying are going to be in relegation contention. But anyhow, Eight Nori is going to be a big loss. Obviously, he's off the city, but David Wolf I think is a decent signing as a replacement. He fits the system that Wolves has as well, the sort of like back five thing where you have aggressive fullbacks. I think that's going to be not too much of an issue. And I mean, you were talking about they signed John Arias, they have Strand Larson, and you were kind of underrating them. But I'm not gonna lie, I think John Arias might cook for them. I mean, we saw how good he was. Maybe I'm being biased here, but we saw how good he was for Fluminense at the Club World Cup. He's been solid for the past few seasons. Will he be up to the standard of Mateus Cunha necessarily? I don't know, but I'm not too concerned about what's going to happen to this Wolves team. I think the core is just being kept intact. They also have players like Fabio Silva, who's coming back to them from loan after his breakout season in La Liga. And while I know he hasn't done that in the Prem yet, I think as he grows, as he develops, I do expect him to have a pretty good season. And like finally, you were talking about Victor Pereira. I think he is also a big component to why this Wolves team was able to stay up. So 16 matches in, Wolves were 19th in the Premier League, and after they brought him in, they were the 11th best team form-wise for the rest of the season, which allows them to finish where they are. And I think Pereira, honestly, these new signings, they fit into the system. There's a lot more continuity here than I see with a lot of these other relegation candidates, and I don't think that they'll be in too much trouble, to be honest.
Okay, that's fair. And yeah, I will say, like, I'm pretty flexible with these teams. Like Sunderland, Burnley, I'm pretty dead set on those two in 20th and 19th.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, yeah.
I don't see Wolves getting 14th. I can definitely see them avoiding relegation. Maybe they place like I don't know where I had West Ham in like 16th place. They can manage there. They do have like I think all of these teams here have decent squad strength. The ones I've got from like 18th to 14th: Wolves, Leeds, West Ham, Brentford, Bournemouth. I think they can all manage to make it out. Well, I mean, I don't really have Bournemouth as a contender personally for relegation, but
But I mean, you have them 14th. That's not.
that they're not. Yeah, they're not in the best position, right? I think it'll be close between all of these teams, though.
So this isn't so far. I feel like the order is a bit different. It seems we have like relatively similar placements for the bottom mid table teams.
Right. It's
So
just the
I want to
relegation
see.
is kind of
It's just the relegation. Yeah,
yeah.
what I'm curious is whether or not that's going to continue, and whether or not like we're gonna just keep having the same thing the whole way down. Because I watched a lot of other Prem predictions, and I feel like we like what we're saying here. It makes it sound like it's a consensus, but it's really not. So, all right, 13th place. I kind of want
Third.
to say it at the same time as you.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Fulham.
Fulham.
Yes.
Oh my god.
You like you said, it sounds like it's consensus.
It's
but
not
it's
consensus.
Not. It's just not. Okay, both in 13th. Okay, I'll say what I've got for Fulham here.
Right.
I think they're safe, but like they're just unspectacular. They have solidified themselves now as a team that survives comfortably, but they're never threatening for like Europe or anything. They're not a threat to anyone in the upper half, like, oh, we're gonna steal your conference league spot or anything of that sort. This season feels like more of the same to me. On the offense, they're like still struggling to replace those goals that Mitrovic once guaranteed for them. Jimenez and Muniz are streaky, and they can catch form in pockets, but it's not consistent enough to drive a top half push in my mind. And defensively, they have improved, but I think they lack a standout center back pairing that can consistently handle attacks from top half teams who are really strong with their offense. The fullbacks, they're decent in possession, but I think that back line is just not built to handle long spells of pressure. And so, unlike with some of these teams we've seen, like say Ipswich last season, where they occasionally had a good game against like a pretty big team, right? I don't think Fulham's going to be like that. I think they're going to get the points they're expected to get against these lower table teams, and they're not going to do so well against the top teams. And I think there is a quiet stability about Fulham, not unlike West Ham, where they're just always just sitting there at the bottom and no
they
one
haven't
really
done
says
shit in the
anything.
transfer window so far. So.
Right. And I think Fulham has something similar, though in this case, I think there's a quiet sort of like stability that keeps them out of the relegation mix, like just above that. But I think while their floor is pretty stable, their ceiling is also pretty low. Unless they suffer like a major injury crisis or a loss of form, or maybe right now they go like crazy with transfers, I think they're going to just hover in that 12 to 14 range. They're going to get, again, their points against the lower table teams like they need to. They can maybe occasionally get a surprise win against those like upper mid teams. I don't think they're really ever going to threaten like the narrative across the league.
Yeah, I think that is a big issue with like not really signing anyone, just keeping I guess status quo. I'm not sure. Like I could actually see them slip a bit lower. I feel like a lot of the other teams though, it's like being neutral, like having like zero value change, vs having like a bunch of negative value change that a lot of these other teams are having. But it does worry me a little bit because 2022-23 season, I'm a Leicester fan. 21-22, I think we finished 8th. And in 22-23, we didn't make any signings. Zero movement in the transfer window. And the worry was we're going to drop down to like 12th or 13th, be a mid-table squad. We got relegated that year. I'm not saying Fulham's going to get relegated, but I think, again, in the Premier League, I've said this a few times already, you have to be constantly cycling through players, making transfers all the time, and they just haven't. They have solid midfield players. They've been able to keep Emil Smith-Rowe, which I think is very key to them. Sander Berg, one of the most underrated players in the Premier League last year, I would say. Andreas Pereira. And to give some credit, I think arguably one of the best fullbacks in the Premier League, and Anthony Robinson is staying. And while, as you're saying, players like Raul Jimenez are maybe not the most consistent, it feels like he's good enough of the time where they don't have to worry about relegation. Every so often this team will just go on like a win a few games in a row, and that's enough really to stay up.
No, this is my whole thing with them. It's like they'll do what they need to, nothing more, nothing less. That is going to be Fulham this season. They will do everything they need to stay glued to the mid-table. They might have like a streak of 2-3 losses. They'll follow it up with 2-3 wins. They'll eventually get back there, and they will be hovering around this midfield range just the whole season. I'm pretty confident in that. And I think they will finish right around here. I have them 13th, like maybe 14th, maybe 12th, somewhere in that range.
All right. Well then, okay. I think the top 12. This is where it gets interesting because all the teams we haven't mentioned yet, which is quite interesting. 13th to 20th. We've all said the same teams, just in a different order.
Right.
I think there's a big gap between 13th to 20th
Mm-hmm.
and 1st to 12th. Would you agree with me on that?
I agree. Lots more transfer activity. That's, I think, definitely a big thing separating 12th, 13th place.
Yeah. So
Uh,
then, okay. I don't know if we'll have the same prediction, but do you want to do that again? Do you want to just say it together
Same
again?
time. Okay,
All right.
my one might be interesting. I've seen a
I think
lot of
mine is
people place
interesting
this
too.
team. I've seen a lot of people place this team quite a few places higher than I have them right now.
Oh, you don't
But
have the
okay,
same one as me, I think then. Okay.
okay. 3, 2, 1. Menu.
Nottingham Forest. Man, you. Okay.
Ooh.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, Christy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, okay?
Nottingham.
Listen. My
Okay.
hands. Okay.
All right.
I'll explain. I'll explain. I'll explain later. But
Yeah.
let
Okay.
me
I'll start with menu
tell me
then.
about United
I'll
first.
start with menu. Um, they finished 12th, and while it might sound brutal, I think the rationale is just this team is not built on firm foundations. Like, this has been an issue for Manu. They're a good squad on paper, but they're still just like a tactical mystery on the pitch. You have Amarim sticking around, and he is going to give them some clarity of vision. That's good. He's not just getting sent off straight away. His system is still going to take time to implement because we are talking about Man U, a team that is riddled with players on high wages that do not contribute nearly as much as they should. Everyone's taught like I don't want to sound like a broken record here or like everyone has talked about this. We've talked about it ourselves in previous episodes. Like there are going to be real growing pains here because their roster is just so all over the place. And I feel like there's some questions in attack. I mean, Sancho's back, but that's only because he did kind of piss poor at Chelsea. Rashford's off on loan again. Anthony might make a permanent transfer to a La Liga team, maybe back to Betis. Garnacho, obviously, he's had his fair share of problems. And Diallo, he had his breakout season, to be fair, but I don't think we can say for sure that he's going to be banging in goals for all of this season. So I don't know that we can rely on any of those guys as consistent goal threats. So now the question is, who do you have as that consistent goal threat? Do you have Mbuemo or Cunha as the number 9, or do you keep Bruno closer to the front? Because obviously he really carried them last season. There are big decisions for Amarim here, especially in that forward line. And then if you go to like the midfield, you have Casemiro's aging legs. There's a lack of a reliable deep distributor, which kind of leaves them exposed in transitions. There is talent on this team for sure. It's just very unbalanced. And I don't think it's all doom and gloom for United. Like they're not finishing 15th. They're not like in contention to finish bottom of the teams that don't get sent down, right? So it's better than last season, but there will be turbulence. I think Amarim will eventually succeed with this team. I have faith in him. I think he's a good manager. But
Well,
the
I feel
road
like if they
there's
finish 12, he's getting sacked. I'm gonna be honest.
if they're willing to keep him, I
They're not
think
gonna
he
be
can
willing to
do
keep
well.
him.
That's the
If they
problem.
finish 12th,
is
they're
like,
not keeping him.
That's the problem. Is I think this is not even. I don't think 12th is necessarily a bad finish for Man U. Like this is a big problem.
Okay, really? 12
No,
is
no,
not
no.
a bad
Okay,
finish?
okay, okay. I'm
Come on.
aware. I'm aware it's Man U, but my expectations for them have been lowered quite significantly.
Okay, I understand that, but just the optics of saying that is
I'm
crazy.
I'm aware. I'm aware. Okay, I'm honestly kind of like my range for these guys is again because we said 13th and 12th is a big divide, right? I don't think they're any lower than 12th. I've got them 12th to 10th. That's my range for them. 12th
Okay.
is kind of questionable. Maybe he does get sacked. I think if he can manage like top 10, you should let him stick around for another year, see what he's able to do for you next season. I
I
agree.
mean, I also
If he's
think, like, because there's a lot of people are saying that they're going to sign, like, a striker, maybe Sesko, maybe, I don't know, Watkins, Jackson, whatever. Like, I don't, like, they're not going to need Fernandez to be
that's true. Okay. So if they can get Sheshko, actually, my placement for them probably goes up to 10th, maybe 9th place.
I'm not saying
I
that
just
they
think if
will
they
necessarily get Shesko
yeah.
specifically, but the way I see it, just to defend why I have United a bit higher than you, Cunha and Mbuemo, I'm assuming, are being bought because they're what, like 70 million each. They're bought to be the second strikers, the I guess second strikers, quote unquote, that fit into Amarin's system. That just makes a lot of sense to me. That's the role that they've been playing, and that's the role that they've done very well in the Premier League last year with. So I'm not saying again. I'm not saying it'll be Sheshko necessarily, but I just imagine that if you're splashing 70 million on each for those two players, they'll be able to get a competent striker at least to be that third option and to complement these two guys. So
Okay. Yeah, that's
yeah,
fair.
I mean, yeah. Let me just. I'm going to go to
For
my
for
12th place
Nottingham,
though
yeah.
for Nottingham Forest. Um. Oh boy. Christy is gonna flame me for this one. Listen, first off, I want to say last year didn't we have them last? We had them 20th last year. So at least I'm not hating. At least I'm not completely hating this time, right? They were 7th, I think, in the Premier League last year, and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
the big loss I think is obviously Anthony Alanga, but also Danilo and Raymond Sosa were pretty important as well, especially Danilo I think to the defensive midfield. But it's just that, and it's also the fact they're competing in the Europa League now. And while I mean it's not the Champions League, but I think the Forest squad is just not like it doesn't have enough depth. I think to compete on that level. I know that they've signed obviously what's his name Igor Jesus from Botafogo. As the backup for Chris Wood, and I expect him to do well. Don't get me wrong, but there's just too many spots on the team where I'm just worried about the backups here. They have been able to keep a lot of the players. They got Dan and Doy from Bologna, who's had a very good season. I think will be able to at least somewhat replace Anthony Alanga kind of in Nuno's system. But again, like I see Hudson Odoi, Gibbs White, Anderson, Ryan Yates. They're very good. But again, who are the backups for these people? It was a lot easier for Nottingham last year, where they basically just contended in the Premier League alone. There was no European competition for them to deal with, and so they were able to shock teams. I think partially by having the stamina, being able to just sit back and counter so effectively against these strong teams. And I think that will be a factor that might hurt them potentially. Now they're keeping Muriel, they're keeping Milinkovic, and they're keeping Matt Sells, who have had great seasons. But call me a hater, but as good as those three guys were, I expect a bit of a downslide. I think they had sort of unicorn seasons, I think. Not that they'll be bad, I think they'll still be very solid. That I think is just a little bit unsustainable. Murillo and Milinkovic, they complement each other so perfectly in that squad last year. But I just don't see it. I think teams are going to learn to adapt. And Matt Sells is like what 33 or 34 years old at this point. Like how many years left does he have in the tank to be one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League, if not the best goalkeeper in the Premier League as he was last year? I would argue.
yeah. No, I mean, you said they'd be like they'd fall back a bit this season, and I've got to agree with you because if you don't mind me moving on to 11th, this is where I've got Forest. And I thought this might be a bit of a spicy pick for you, anyways, because I thought you might support them a bit more. But okay, I mean, Forest
I mean,
obviously one of
now
the
I always point them as them. I'll hope they'll be doing
right.
well.
Yeah, I'll
I will
hope
like them
they
to.
do
I like
well,
to see them
but
do well.
it's
But
it's
I
I
just
can't
don't
see them
think
doing that.
I just
Yeah,
don't
I
see
can't
it.
see them
Yeah.
doing that much here. I mean, Forest, they were one of the spicier, like one of those bigger stories of last season, right? They had that blazing start. They sat second through much of the early fall. They, I guess, held on at the end, but we've kind of already seen the backslide start, right? Towards the end of last season. Um, and like with Europa League now in the picture, like you said, assuming that goes through, because I know there's still some issues with Palace because they want their Europa back, right? But assuming they get Europa, or even if they get Conference, their attention is going to be divided. The squad depth is maybe a bit questionable, and balancing European and domestic commitments is going to be really a brand new challenge for them because they haven't had to deal with that in like decades now. You have that late season dip, and it I think exposed some tactical fragility. Nuno was sticking with that same system even as fatigue built up and form dipped quite a bit. Gibbs White faded late, and when his production dried up, Forrest looked a bit stale. And Alanga leaving for Newcastle is obviously not doing them any favors. He and Chris Wood made such a great duo. And Chris Wood's getting old, but I think like he's still gonna have great finishing. It's just that can't be taken advantage of nearly as much when you don't have a guy who can really give him those opportunities like Alanga was able to. Forest, they seemed like they were having a Cinderella run at the start of the last season, but the fairy tale it kind of faded away and things aren't quite going their way anymore. Now they've got a tough decision to make here between England and Europe, and with the competition in the Prem, lots of teams having strong transfer windows and much improved recent performances in like friendlies and European competitions and whatnot. I just don't see Forest finishing in the European places again, and I think their best chance at European football next year is to let themselves slip in the Prem and just see how far Europa takes them.
They could win Europa. I'm not even gonna lie. Like
I think they
I
could,
think
yeah, if
yeah.
they put in the
They
effort.
may not have the depth, but if you're just looking at the starting 11, I still think that it's very solid. And speaking of teams that I think are not are built for cups more than Premier League seasons, I think I might have given it away. Who do I have as 11? Swapnil, you tell me.
The chicken on the football, I
Yep.
think.
Bird
Yeah.
bouncing on a ball. Crystal Palace, 11th place. Listen, better than 12th. Better than 12th. They're escaping 12th purgatory. I feel like that's pretty good. And they're gonna be doing it while playing in the conference league. This is what I'm looking at. So under Oliver Glasner, I think they had a very bad start to the season. It was like they were like 19th place, 12 games in. They were really in relegation basically just for the first third of the season, and from that point forward, the rest of the year they were the eighth best team in the Prem. And I thought maybe 11th would be a little bit high compared to what you had them as, but you have them higher than me, which is not even that crazy to me. I think that's valid. But I think Crystal Palace, yeah, have been a serially underrated team, and I think like the backslide they had at the start of the year is just feeding into that more and more. But with that FA Cup win, they're back on the radar, and I expect them to do pretty well. So in terms of like transfer news, I was worried that Mark Gahey was going to be gone because of Liverpool, but it seems now Konate is increasingly likely to stay at Liverpool. And I don't think Liverpool will go for Gahey if Konate leaves. And then other than that, they have like even if Gahey does leave, they have Diomande, Tagio Dijalo for players that they might potentially sign in case of in case of Gahey leaving. So I definitely see a lot of proactivity in the transfer window in that they're ready. But my one other concern is I don't know what's happening with Eberechi Eze. So if you look at like the tactical system that they play, they actually play a lot more of a modern system, I would say, than a lot of these other lower mid-table teams. If you can even categorize Palace as that at this point, because first off, the 3-4-3 I think is a very interesting system, and part of why it works so well is because it's very adaptive. They have the fullbacks in Mitchell and Munoz who are good at pushing forward, providing offensive threats, while also either them being able to run back as well, or having Kamada and Wharton be able to push back into the defense. And what's interesting about this is for Ismail Assar and Munoz, who I expect to be the right wing back, right wing pairing, they have sort of similar playstyles where that one person can cut inside, one person can stay on the byline, and there's a lot more. There's the duality there. But in terms of Micho and Ebereziece, which I expect to be the left wing back, left wing duo, Eze is really the only guy on this Palace team that is a dribble first winger. In that, instead of trying to make a cross, trying to pass, he will try to actually go at the defender and try to cut inside. And if you lose that, I don't think Tyrone Mitchell is really capable of doing that the same way that Munoz is. And even ignoring that issue, they just don't have a backup left winger in general. Like they have Nketiah, he can be the backup striker for Mateta. They have Eze, who I think is going to just get better and better and be the backup for Sarr. But who's going to be if Eze is gone? Who's playing in that position? They don't have anybody. And like I don't think Oliver Glasner, as great of a manager he is, I don't think he's adaptive enough to change systems on the fly like that if he has to. So the main concern is that's the main concern for me. If he stays though, which seems increasingly likely because I think his release clause or whatever, like something like that expired, right? So that's gonna be harder for Arsenal to sign him. If they can keep that, I think the system just works really well. There's maybe a few places where I would like to see some more reinforcements. Like I don't think they have enough. I don't think they have enough backups in the center back region. Gahey, Chris Richards, Maxence Lacroix have been very solid for them, but none of them are injured. And if one of them gets injured, who's going to be the next guy? You could like play Jefferson Lerma out of position, maybe. You could hope Chatty Ryan has a breakout season, but that could potentially be an issue. But overall, it's a solid team. The tactics seem solid to me. They need to make some more transfers, I think. They need to solidify the attack and the defense in terms of the backup if you want to compete in a 38 game season while also being in the Conference League. So I can't really have them much higher than 11.
Yeah, and we've actually got the same situation as earlier because you had Nottingham in 12th, I had them in 11th, and you have Palace in 11th, I've got them in 10th. So, yeah, they've been quietly building one of the most exciting young cores in the Premier League. And of course, they finished strong last season with the FA Cup, and they can carry some real momentum into this season. I mean, right now you've got a great group of forwards here with Eze, Mateta, Sarr, and Kedia. Palace, they've got multiple attacking profiles that can really hurt teams. Eze is creative, he's great on the ball, and he is also a great provider, with Mateta able to finish those assists consistently. The only issue is there's transfer interest around both of them, quite a bit of interest. If either of these players leave, I can see Palace definitely sticking around in 10th place, but maybe also dropping a place. If both go, I could see them in 11th or even 12th. And Liverpool is still chasing down Mark Gahey. So if all three of those guys
Dude,
are
y'all
gone,
need to chill, bro. Holy shit. Liverpool, where's this
it's
money coming from?
if
God.
all it's the Coutinho money.
Bro, the
Always,
Coutinho
it's
money
always
goes
the
so
Coutinho
hard,
money.
bro. Holy shit.
It's
I thought
always the
Allison. I
Coutinho
thought Allison and Van Dijk were the Coutinho money.
Nope.
Why is there so much? I thought Nunez. I
Apparent-
thought Nunez was the Coutinho money.
Apparently, we put all the Coutinho money into like Palantir stock or something, and it shot up to the moon. And this is the
Oh
result.
my god.
This is what we've
You
got.
just put it in fucking Palantir and Nvidia, and it's
Exactly.
been mooning.
Nvidia,
Okay, I see.
yep, through the pandemic,
Yeah.
through the GPU shortage, and now
Right.
Coutinho money's still going strong.
Damn.
No,
Okay,
it's
I
like-
see. That makes sense. All right.
If all three of these guys somehow manage to leave, I don't think it's very likely, as a Mateta and Gahey. If they all manage to go, I could see Palace dropping past that like barrier, that line in the sand we drew between the 1 to 12 teams who are like can compete for potentially for European, and the 13th to 20th who are like potential for relegation. I think they could drop past that barrier and down to like 13th. But I do also think Palace have a strong enough roster that they can weather the storm. I mean, we talk about like Sarr, talk about Nketiah, right? For now, I'm going to be optimistic for them and say that they keep all these key players despite whatever transfer interest. Maybe we grab Gahey off of them, but like they can keep Eze, they can keep Mateta, and so I'm going to have them in 10th, just about middle of the pack. Yeah, on their day, this side can beat just about anybody. They are strong. They have lots of potential. And again, if they keep the best parts of their roster, I think they're poised for a pretty decent domestic campaign.
Yeah, I mean, I also obviously have them keeping their players, and to their credit, they have been somewhat proactive. Like they have Diomande on the ready. If Gahey leaves, they have him. Like advanced transfer talks are here. So Palace have been very proactive, and I think they'll be fine as long as they keep Eze, which it seems like Arsenal is fumbling the bag once again, like they do every year in the transfer window. I think it should be fine for them. But my 10th place team is a team that at one point last season we all thought were going to be relegated. We all thought was the worst team in the Premier League. Not we all, but I like to say part of the internet. But something happened. One of their fans became the Prime Minister of Canada. I'm sorry, okay, this is not related. But yes, Canada got a new Prime Minister. I hear he's a very big fan of Everton FC. And the Toffees, I think, are going to have a good season this year. So I think they were, 15th in the league when David Moyes joined them? And since then, I swear, this guy does not drop points against anybody other than the Big Five. I swear, didn't he, get a 0-0 draw against fucking Arsenal in the Emirates or some shit like that?
He did. Yep.
Well, bro,
so impressive, this guy.
David Moyes is a fucking miracle worker, dude. Holy shit. I expect some level of backsliding a little bit. But I think 10th is still pretty reasonable. A lot of these upper mid-table teams are suffering from losing players, and as long as you keep that up, and then you just make some good transfers, you play it slow. I think that's the right strategy, and that's what Everton have been doing. So, first off, it seems like they're keeping, for the most part, their key players. Pickford is staying. They still have that solid back line. And also, to be fair for them, it seems like there are some potential players that they're going after. Most notably, I'm hearing that Jackie Grealish might be coming to the Toffees. Not confirmed, but I'm just saying that would be pretty big. He has been left out of the preseason squad. He did not play in the Club World Cup for Man City. You never know. Also, Tyler Dibbling, I think the initial bid was rejected by from Southampton, but they are willing to up the price for him as well. They might go for Taka Fusakubo or Assassin Diao to improve the offense. So a lot of rumors going on with Everton. They're not going to get all of these players, but I do think good things are happening here, and I do think they will continue to be proactive throughout the rest of the window. I know they lost CoDaKrew, but they do have midfield options that are improving, such as Alcaraz. And while they lost Calvert-Lewin as well, I think by now Beto has honestly eclipsed him as the starting striker. And again, under David Moyes, another miracle he's done is he's revised Beto's career, apparently. Out of nowhere, this guy's became good. This guy remembered how to shoot or something. I don't know. But yeah, anyways, they got Tarkowski as well. Braithwaite, who I think continues to improve every year. And yeah, I see that this team is going to be. I mean, 10th is not really upper mid table, but it feels like an upper mid table level squad, and I think that's perfectly reasonable for Everton. You have them even higher, which a lot of people would disagree with, but I don't. Once again, if you have them
Well,
ninth or eighth, I'm not even going to complain.
do you
I'm not
want to
going to complain too
guess
much.
where I have them?
Now that you're
Based
saying
on
that, it's going to be like
based
six or
ba-
some shit.
no
Oh
no
my
no no
god.
no
Oh
no no no
no.
no no. Okay, so what's happened so far? You had
Oh,
Nottingham
so you're going to
12th,
be
I
your
had them
ninth. So
11th.
they're ninth for you
I
then.
have them ninth.
I see. Okay.
It's
Okay. I see.
every team you have.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how high do you have Man U then? This
Oh
is
no,
what
they're
I'm
ninth. They're ninth. They're ninth. They're ninth. I'm not going too
Okay,
crazy.
okay, that's fine.
Again, I'm not,
'Cause-
by the way, I'm assuming that they signed someone like Sheshko, to be clear.
right, yeah.
If they don't, I
No,
actually agree with you. But just
it's just
because
because
that,
like I was worried my list was like offset by one from yours, and then it just keeps going, and you have
yeah,
Man
and
U,
then
like,
eventually
way
when
up
they
there.
have Man United winning the league, of course, then it's
Then it evens out. Then it evens
oh
out.
boy, yeah.
Okay,
Well, wait,
Everton
real
in
quick
ninth.
though. So
Yeah,
that means our ninth to 12th are just in a different order once again.
pretty
So
much.
coming into first to eighth, we once again have the same teams.
So again, it was like before. I had Wolves relegated. You had Brentford, right? We
Right.
had a sort of swap there. I think you had Brentford. Was it 14th? I think.
Brentford, I think. Yeah, I think it was. No, no, no.
Four...
I'm the one who had Brentford relegated.
Oh crap! So
Right,
you
yeah.
had Wolves.
Yeah, sorry, you
14th,
had
right?
you
Yeah,
had
yeah,
Wolves
yeah.
relegated, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I had Wolves relegated, and then you had Brentford like 14th, and I had or you had Wolves 14th, and then I had like Brentford 15th, and you had Brentford
Yeah.
relegated. We have like a situation again now where we just have a section of teams that's just the same, except the teams on either end are swapped. So
Right.
okay, Everton in ninth. I don't know. Like, despite those points deductions they had last year, I mean, like they've been on great form. Sean Dyche has them fully drilled. The spine is solid. Brantwaite is evolving into a rock at the back, and Beto has showed flashes of being the kind of gritty forward that Dyche would love to build around. And I think Everton, what's great about them is like they're physical, they're very tough to break down. So much energy behind these guys. And now that they like finally have a reliable shape, I think they're going to be nice and disciplined when they need to be as well, and that's going to be great for them. You have as well continued growth from like Garner and McNeil. You're seeing there's transfer interest from Dibbling, from Grealish. This is a team that can frustrate top six sides. I mean, we saw it once Dyche came in. They can frustrate those top teams while consistently also winning their bottom half matchups. I think I said with Fulham earlier where it was like, oh, I don't think they're really going to challenge the top teams. They'll just win the matches they're expected to. I think Everton are going to do that and more. And so for that reason, I have them making it into the top half.
Yeah, like they really have been challenging. I at the time it was like a big. I guess you could call it like a big five. I don't know. Now it's things are changing. Newcastle's getting cooked in the transfer window. But yeah, United though. I have United in ninth. I think my reasoning is actually very similar to yours. Again, it's just because I think they'll sign Sheshko or Watkins or someone out. It could be someone else who isn't even on the market yet. Because I do think a lot of this also hinges on what happens to Isak, right? So that's gonna be quite interesting. And I think with Cunha and Mbamo signed on this roster, the front three is gonna be fixed. If they get Sheshko, which I think is a bit more likely, because I think Sheshko is really gonna decide between Newcastle and United. And based on what's happened to Newcastle so far this transfer window, I'm gonna assume he's gonna go to United. Uh, that front three I think is solved. But then the issue, as you were saying, is what's happening with that midfield. Kobe Mainu, Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro, Ugarte, Sancho, Diallo. Not all these players are going to start, and not all these players fit the system that Ruben Amorim likes to play. So, yeah, I think some of these players are going to need to be cut. And while Amorim, I don't think did a good job at figuring out, okay, who do I want, who do I not want, and therefore it was hard to make an identity. It was hard for United to build an identity. I'm assuming that this year he will do it. He hasn't given me much reason to be honest, but I just trust that this Ruben Amorim, who has had otherwise a very solid managerial career so far, will be able to find his way for United. The other issue, of course, is that defense, but I think I wouldn't be. I think I don't want to say I wouldn't be too worried, but with players like Lenny Euro, who obviously had his development delayed with that injury, with players like Maguire, who are having a bit of a career revival, I would argue, under the new system that Ruben Amorim likes to play, I do think one more year, without sounding like without trying to sound too much like a United Glazer, I think one more year, Emery and Loki might figure this out, kind of. And they're not going to contend for Europe. That's not what I'm saying, but I think ninth is pretty reasonable. And he honestly might still get fired at ninth, but
I don't even know with Man
hopefully
U,
not.
bro. Their
I think
expectations are just too high.
I don't know,
I'm
man.
sorry, but like you cannot just ignore all the shit the Glazers have done to you and expect that you're gonna go back to prime Sir Alex Ferguson era every time you've got a new manager. Like there's work to do here. I know there's a lot of shit you can talk about Eric Ten Hag, but there's also just so much institutionally with this club. Like you just cannot blame it all on the manager. I know they will, at least like the owners might.
Well,
You just
what else are they gonna do? Take accountability? Like, come on.
sell the club? No. I don't know. Okay. Well, that means we've completed another section of our team. So we move on now to eighth place to first place, which again, we've got like the same group of teams here. And I'm going to start with not too dissimilar for what I had with Man United, where it's one
Wait,
of these big
hang
six.
on. Can we try to say eighth at the same time? Because I feel like there is a possibility. I'm not saying it's gonna happen. There is a possibility that 1 to 8 we just have the same order.
Okay.
That's a possibility.
Then
So
3, 2, 1, Spurs.
Tottenham.
Yes.
Spurs, Tottenham. Yeah. So yeah. So we have okay.
Okay, for
right,
once,
there we go.
for once, it's not like I have your first team last and you have my first team last. Okay,
Yeah, you were worried I was gonna say like Liverpool, were you?
right. The other bird. Okay.
Liverpool 8. I feel like I mean pretty good, right?
Yep. Eighth.
Top
Eighth.
half.
Fair enough for them.
Yeah.
Okay, Spurs. I mean, finishing eighth. Like, obviously, I had Man U 12th, and that is like very underwhelming given that it's Man U. But I mean, eighth is not great for Spurs either on paper, anyway. But
But
considering how
it's so much more excusable though. I think, especially because
yeah, it
Champions
is, it
League.
is.
And I just like historically, Tottenham's not as big of a club as United.
That's also true. Yeah. So honestly, also considering just how chaotic things got last season, it's not bad. It's basically a rebound year. They've lost a bit of firepower. They're still mid-transition, but Ange now has a squad that is more aligned with his vision. And they've got...
Ange.
Oh, did I... I'm fucking stupid, bro.
Oh god.
Anyways, they dude, why did they get rid of Ange? Can we talk about this for a second?
Oh
He
yeah,
got- he
because
got
the
them-
ownership can't. Bro, it's the Tottenham owners. What are you expecting?
He got them UCL, man. Okay, Thomas Frank.
They won a trophy. They got them a trophy.
They won a trophy and he's gone.
Oh my god.
I guess they took advantage of the second year trophy while they still had him, and now it's
Because
third
of
year.
Ange
Not
Postecoglou,
even.
Tottenham Hotspur has more trophies this year than Arsenal. That's so like
And they sold
that
him,
is such a monumental achievement historically for this team.
and they let him go. That's okay. Nice.
Let them go.
Anyways, Frank is coming in, and it's really not a bad squad he's got here, and they've got UCL, so they've got stuff to look forward to. I mean, I guess there is maybe an absence of like a true goal scoring talisman. Obviously, Kane's been gone for over a year. You have Son's departure as well, which adds even more weight to that vacuum. And now Spurs, I think, are left maybe without a consistent source of goals like all across the season. Obviously, they had that injury crisis last season, right? And Son was basically there through it all. And I don't think they're going to have an injury crisis again, but you're also not going to have a player like Son, I think, that can be consistently scoring throughout the season to basically pull the team up by its bootstraps. But I don't know. Defensively, I do think they've improved. You had Van de Ven last season, right? And Christian Romero's disciplinary issues were a bit more under control as well. You've got Vicario's steady presence too, so you have a spine back there to work with. And I think maybe the attacking threat won't be quite there. Though, of course, if they don't have an injury crisis, like I think they can still end up scoring more than they did last season. Maybe not with as good of a line on paper, but like I think they'll do all right with attack, and they'll also be good in the back line. So again, like unlike with maybe their issues last season where they're not scoring, they're also really leaking goals, and that causes them lots of problems and keeps them pinned down to the bottom of the table. I think they'll do pretty well here. Again, as long as they don't have like another team-breaking injury crisis, I think they'll do.
I think, to be fair, Thomas Frank is much more conservative with his defenders compared to Ange Postecoglou, who has such a high line. So I think they won't. I think they won't have the injury crisis with Thomas Frank in. And speaking of Frank, by the way, I mean I would have kept Ange if I were the Spurs owner.
Yeah,
but
no,
if you're gonna get rid of him for someone, Thomas Frank is pretty good.
Thomas
Like,
Frank is a pretty good pick. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, out of all the people, it could have been a lot worse. It could have been substantially worse than Thomas Frank. So, yeah. But yeah, like I was saying, I think the injury crisis will be as bad for Thomas Frank's system compared to Ange Postecoglou. And even then, I think they did sign a few center backs. When Van de Ven are healthy, obviously they're very, very solid. And yeah, I don't expect that to be changing. And then, who are the players that they signed? It was like, they got Luka Vucevic, I think, and Kevin Danso will be staying as well. And Vucevic is like 18 years old, young. He has really good build-up ability, which is going to be useful for Frank's system. And then Kevin Danso, we haven't seen much from him so far, but who knows what happens with him. I think he's good enough at least to be a backup for this squad. I think that's reasonable. So then, one more issue though with the team is they were pretty reliant on Vicario, I would say, in the first half of the season. And after he came back from injury, his two injuries, I should say, I wouldn't say he's been bad, but it has been a clear downgrade. And I'm not sure if he's going to rise back to the level he was at the start of the season last year, but that could potentially be an issue for me. And the other issue, obviously, is the offense. Mohamed Kudus did not have that great of a season last year, but I blame West Ham with their whatever bullshit tactics and not him. But even then, you lost Heung-min Son, and that's going to be a big issue. Richarlison, Brennan Johnson, I don't think they're up to level. Brennan Johnson has his moments. I think he can be good as almost like a sort of João Pedro role, where he's like cutting inside. He can find the far post goal. He can be in the right position. But they do need somebody. They do need a real goal scorer, someone who will be willing to cut for the defense, try to cross in. And Kudos fits that profile. I think he averaged something like 2.4 successful dribbles a game, something like that. And that was even last year when he had a bad year. If it was like 3.8 the year before. So that's going to help. And also they got Matthias Tell, who a young player from Bayern. We don't know whether he'll adapt to the league immediately, but I do see a lot of potential there as well. So I think smart signings to fit the system. They got the right guy in Thomas Frank, and competing in the Champions League makes it difficult to contend also for a European spot with how strong the teams are nowadays. But yeah, I think 8th is solid, and I wouldn't be too mad about it if I were a Hotspur fan, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bit of a quiet transfer window, perhaps, but not a bad one. I think they've gotten the players they need to. Of course, they have a pretty big departure with Son leaving, but I think they have the players that they need to back them up. And like I said, they can score what they need to. I think their back line will hold strong as well. And yeah, eighth place is not half bad for them. I think it's a big recovery from last season, and I think this too. I'm saying, like, even with juggling Champions League, I think their roster is good enough that they can place around here and still put some good effort into European football as well. And who knows? Maybe they go like one place higher than this, and they could potentially get European football for next season. But with that being said, 7th place. Do we want to do the thing again? Okay.
Yes.
3, 2, 1. Brighton.
Newcastle. Oh, okay.
Okay. Let's see. I'll start with the Seagulls then. I mean,
okay.
Brighton, they always seem to find a way to do decently well in seasons recently. Like, they can revive careers, they can flip talent, or just lean on their system. But last season was a bit turbulent for them. I mean, they missed out on Europe entirely. They struggled with consistency. And a big change now, of course, is João Pedro is leaving for Chelsea. He gave Brighton... I mean, like we've seen what he's done with Chelsea, it's not so much goals he's given them. He is scoring when he needs to, but really it's that movement through the midfield and being able to provide chances for other people, which is a very big thing for this team. But I think Brighton, they tend to plan for exits. And I mean, you've got Matoma back fit, Gruda is arriving, and there's a rotating cast of creators in midfield, I think they still have threat from wide and deep zones, and so they can manage decently well even without Joao Pedro being there. I think where they have quietly improved as well as at the back, you've got consistent starters in the defensive line, and the shape looks more organized too. You have as well a more settled goalkeeper situation, and with all that said, I think they can concede fewer than they did last year, especially without the distraction of Europe. I think at the very least they can focus on the Prem, to put all their efforts into there, and they can do pretty well. And so I'm going to say they finish, we can't say for certain, I think, but 7th place, probably going to be a European place. They can get Conference League for
I mean, with how good
26-27.
England has been in Europe,
I think pretty
most
likely they're going to get Conference League for 26-27, so I'll have them here in 7th.
Man, I don't know if I want to talk about Brighton or Newcastle first now at this point. I will say, you know what? I'll leave Brighton a bit for later. I guess the one thing I do want to mention, the back line, as you were saying, has been really solid, but we should remember they just signed Olivier Bascagli and Decoupé, who I think, honestly, they have been so good, I think that they could slot right into that back four and be a big improvement. So, and then they have Van Heck, who's been really good. They have Veltman, who's been very solid as well. That back four is, we talk, I feel like, all the time about, the Brighton's wingers. Their wing attack is so solid. But they've been improving their defense a lot this offseason. And I think that's going to be one of their biggest assets. But again, I'll talk about Brighton more comprehensively when I get to them in where I have them in my table. But as for Newcastle in 7th, the issue for me is losing Isak. Like, I mean, I guess they didn't accept the Liverpool bid, but Isak said he's not going to play for Newcastle anymore. And he's been saying for a while that he wants to go to a big club. So he's leaving, like, whether Newcastle like it or not. In my opinion, the only reason that they've kept him around is because, the only reason they've rejected Liverpool's bid so far is because they want to get a backup striker, or not backup, but a new striker to replace him. Because, like, even if they just never make the deal, Isak's not going to refuse to play for him. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
They would have had
Benjamin
Ekitike and
Šeško,
stole Ekitike from him. Šeško will work out, I guess.
Šeško, I don't think they're going to... I think Šeško might go for United, honestly. We'll see. I don't know who it's going to be, but, like, they could get someone. This is a good project that Newcastle has here. Like, surely they can get something to work. And I think some people have Newcastle really struggling this year, but as long as Isak is the only major exit they have, I mean, Anthony Gordon, Jacob Murphy, and Morgan Gibbs, what they just got, these are solid wingers who will similar to, as we were talking about how Anthony Elanga was very strong for helping Chris Wood in the Nottingham Forest squad. I do think that Newcastle have the wingers in order to help whoever is on the offense, whoever the striker is, to get opportunities and be a poacher. So I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue. And then you have the back line. Dan Burn, breakout season for him. Livramento, one of the best right backs in the league. And by the way, City seems like they're not going to be able to sign him, which I think is kind of stupid, but whatever. You do you, Etihad. But yeah, solid back line. Again, solid midfield as well. You still have Guimaraes, Sandro Tonali, Lewis Miley. And now you have, as I was saying to you before we started recording, they basically have the English national team as their goalkeepers. Nick Pope and Aaron Ramsdale. So that's on lock for the next 10 years. I'm exaggerating. I don't know how old Ramsdale is, but the next 5 years minimum. So it's still a really, really good team. They probably won't get that good of a striker because apparently nobody wants to join them for some stupid reason, but...
Yeah, okay. I have Newcastle, and I'm wondering if maybe we have them switch Newcastle and Brighton.
Yeah, we have them switch, obviously.
I have them in 6th, so I'm guessing you have Brighton in 6th. It's not... Yeah, the roster's still strong, and I think the reason, like you've said, some people are touting them to really struggle this season and be maybe quite a few places lower than what we have them, is because they've just had an absolute stinker of a transfer window. I mean, they've got Elanga, to be fair, right? That's a good move. They lost out on Ekitike. They lost out on Trafford. Every player they aim for just seems to end up somewhere else. Like you said, Šeško might just end up going to United. Now they could lose Isak as well. I think if the roster stays as is, or even like you said, if Isak leaves, 6th is pretty reasonable. you have that like midfield trio: Bruno, Tonali, Joe Linton, that could be pretty electric. You have players like Willock you can add in for rotation, and you have a hardworking unit there. So their midfield is strong. But I mean, like, I can't just say off of their current roster they've got right now they're going to be sixth, because there's like so much transfer mist around these guys. Does Isak leave? Can they get Wissa from Brentford or Sheshko from Leipzig? Right. There are so many questions to be asked, and I think it's just really unfortunate for the Magpies because they have Eddie Howe, who is a great manager, and you could do so much with a proper, stable roster. Right now, I'm kind of just trying to average out these outcomes. There's just like so much that could potentially still happen with this team, some good, some bad. And ultimately, I think sixth, or maybe, like you said, seventh, is pretty reasonable for them.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. And I think also, like, a lot of the other teams that are playing in Europe this year, that's going to be a big issue. But I think Newcastle actually have some pretty decent depth. So I wouldn't be too worried about how they're doing in the Champions League. I think 2 years ago, when they were in the Champions League, they kind of fell off a little bit in the Prem, but I think there were also a lot of injuries that were going on at the time that also made it seem a much bigger deal than it was. So yeah, Newcastle's solid, and therefore I have Brighton in sixth, as you may have guessed. Though honestly, I thought you might have Brighton like even lower than seventh, because it feels like every year for the last few years, Brighton seems like they're poised for a European spot finish, but they always find a way to screw it up somehow. But I think this year is the year because, like I was saying before, the defense has been fully sorted out. They have a really, really good midfield trio in Jack Henshelwood, Jorginho Rutter, and Carlos Baleba, and they're 20, 21, and 23 years old as well. So they're going to be even better last year. So that's the defense that's improving. That's a midfield that they haven't signed new players, but I think just by default is going to continue to be improving. And then on the offense, yes, João Pedro is a big loss. Yes, Danny Welbeck is not at that level. But again, they've been proactive. They signed Kostulias. They signed two Greek people whose names I can't pronounce properly, but they're young and they're gonna develop under Danny Welbeck. And I think that they have a very, very solid system that's been going around. They've also been, I think it was Tom Watson they just got, as well as the future backup for Karu Matoma. I've just seen a lot of just smart transfers, honestly, and that's what I expect to continue from Brighton. And I think this is the year. I think, again, a lot of the other big table teams, like the people they were competing against, the Brentfords, the Bournemouths, they're struggling this year. And then, who was seventh? Nottingham Forest? Was that the team that was between them and Europe, I think? Were they eighth?
Yeah, it was.
Yes, well, I don't think Forest are going to make a European spot again. So then, just by default, again, continuing to make incremental steps to improve your roster, I think this is the year for Brighton. As long as they don't mess something up somehow.
Dude, don't forget that, because we had it was Nottingham in seventh place, Brighton eighth, and you remember who was ninth place?
It was Bournemouth, right?
It was Brentford, no?
Oh, it was Brentford? Oh, you're right. No,
yeah.
It was Brentford. Yeah, it was Bournemouth 10th, right?
Well, look where Brentford are now. Don't you have them going down, right?
I have them going down. Yeah, I don't. That's not that crazy of a prediction. I really think
it's so much has happened for them, and like just. Yeah, Brighton, Newcastle, they can benefit because these places, like these European spots, are a bit more safe for them now that it seems like Nottingham's not going to compete as much. Brentford is like way down there. And interestingly enough, I think their main competitor for these lower European places is now Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Tottenham's they might make a Europe. I think it's not that unreasonable for them to make like Conference or Europa themselves.
No, it's not though. It's fair with everything that's been going with all these different teams. I think this is a pretty reasonable placement for them. Yeah. So they'll be competing, but I guess we have Brighton and Newcastle more likely to take the European places.
Well, and that was 6th to 8th, 1st to 5th.
1st to 5th.
5th place.
We go again then, or what are we thinking?
Yeah, we go again.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Aston Villa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll speak on it real quick. And I mean, Unai Emery's men, they were unbelievable at times last season. They kept good form toward the end. I think 5th place was an honorable finish for them. But as we know, they did not finish 5th place. They had
because they were cheated out by the refs. Like let's just call it what it is.
They had that last day drama. in against Man U, finished sixth behind Newcastle, which I still feel was very undeserved given how Newcastle were doing in their final game. But regardless of what you think of that debacle, losing Champions League football has bankrupted this team. For this window, at least. They couldn't keep Asensio. They had to let him go back to PSG. They had to give Rashford back to United and watch him immediately get sent off to Barca. Emi Martinez might go off somewhere else. Duran left at the start
probably
of the
not. I don't think Martinez.
Yeah, I don't think we're that far gone, but like.
Or sorry, not Duran. You mean Watkins?
Right. I mean, I don't see. We had because Duran left, right, and who is replacing him? I don't know. Watkins might be able to score a bit more, but it's like if you look at the
I guess Daniel Malen, I suppose.
That's true. But if you look at the incomings, there's genuinely just nothing. Like, I look at the transfers and I see a bunch of players going out on loan, probably to make up for PSR and all the contracts they still have to hold up to make sure more people don't leave. Özcan got signed from Turkey and immediately got loaned off to Belgium. They have Brest's goalkeeper and a forward from Feyenoord on a free. I think genuinely this is a worse transfer window than Newcastle's. The only reason people aren't talking about that is because Newcastle is getting cucked by all of the prospects. Meanwhile, Villa is not even able to approach them in the first place because they don't have the money to do it. And the reason
is that even that big of a problem? I mean,
that's the thing. The reason that after all of that I still have Villa ahead of Newcastle is because Isak leaving has the potential to ruin the Magpies, and I think Villa are just a bit safer with their front line, not relying on one player as much as Newcastle does, and I don't think any of their big scorers that they have currently are at risk of leaving, so they're fine right now. If Newcastle can get their shit together and maybe they actually make some good transfers, maybe they do beat Villa for 5th. But just as it stands right now, where Newcastle have got to juggle whatever transfers they've got, and Isak potentially leaving as well, I think Villa can basically sit here and do nothing. And as it stands, I think they'll still stay ahead of Newcastle.
Yeah, and also there's a big difference between playing in Europa and Champions League. I think it's not that crazy. I can just go out on a limb right now and say the favorites to win the Europa League this year are Aston Villa, right? So I think the big issue with Rashford and Asensio is you've lost offensive depth. Because now it's really just Daniel Malen and Leon Bailey who are going to be the backups. And the good thing is Malen can really play anywhere on the offense, so it's not as big of a deal as if he just had 2 players to fill 3 positions. But, I think the team would like to do with an additional offensive player. Maybe they'll get, maybe some youth players will come through. Maybe they get a few, free transfers. I don't know. But it's not the biggest deal, I would say. They have a solid midfield. I mean, Yuri Tielemans, John McGinn, Amadou Onana. They still have that solid back line, and they have Emi Martinez. So we saw how good they can be. They started out slow at the end of the season, but I think the rest of the middle and end, basically, I would say, that showed how good Villa can be. They were one of the only teams that were able to not humiliate themselves against PSG in the Champions League. This is a team with a lot of solidity here. So, yeah, I think Villa in 5th. I have seen some people say that because they're not making any transfers, they're going to have a lot of backslide. But I just don't see it. I think the team is just good. I don't know. And it's a young team as well. I just don't see the issue.
Okay, then 4th place. I feel like 4th
I think we're going to agree.
I feel like we will. There is one. Okay, well, actually, there's one selection that could be interesting, but I feel like 4th we will have the same team just because of the videos we've done before. And for anyone who's watched those transfers, tactics, targets videos that we did earlier, I think you'll know who we have in 4th. So I'm just going to do the countdown: 3, 2, 1. Chelsea.
Yes.
Right. I mean, they're entering this season. They have momentum and a clearer identity than they have had in years. They finished last year with a European trophy, with a Club World Cup win, and that 4th place league finish that felt like a foundation for something more. But the question is now, can they break the hegemony of the big 3, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, that have been just kind of slightly varying their order in those three positions for the last couple seasons now. I mean, you've brought in Joao Pedro. He's the linchpin in attack. He gives Chelsea the profile that they have long lacked, a dynamic connector that can drop, link, stretch the back line, basically let the rest of the attack breathe a little. He's exactly what Maresca needed. And of course, behind him, Cole Palmer has a great supporting cast. You've still got that dual pivot of Fernandez and Caicedo. You have some added depth with Isugo and Kendry Paez as well. And Chelsea's biggest evolution is going to be off the ball because the press is now structured. You have players like Pedro, Gittins, Esteval who press with purpose. And with added depth in every position and also a lot of added talent, Maresca can rotate without losing his tactical spine. And so I think they will have a good season. It's just they're not. I don't think it's quite enough to break the top three because just everyone's had such a good transfer window. And so I think Chelsea have a bit more catching up to do.
We were talking about how I think 1st to 12th, it was a big difference between 1st to 12th and everyone else. There was a big difference now between 1st and 4th than everyone else, I would say. Chelsea, Arsenal, City, and Liverpool, they have had all amazing transfer windows, net spend of at least 100 million each. And like when Chelsea, you finish 4th, I think they finished 4th last season, and then you sign Jamie Gittins, you sign Joao Pedro, Joao Hato is a here we go according to Fabrizio, so that's coming soon, and most likely Xavi Simons as well. Simons, by the way, I think from his Instagram bio a few days ago, deleted the RB Leipzig thing, so he's coming. Like it's not confirmed, but we know at this point.
All right.
So yeah, I think the question is, where do you place all these players? I know we had some disagreement on that. I still think that Simons is going to play as a number 10 and Palmer as a winger because Jamie Gittins and Cole Palmer are so much better at cutting inside than like Nkunku and Neto were last year. So it just fits very well in my opinion. But yeah, the only reason I don't have them higher is because as good of a transfer window they've had, the top three have been even better. So honestly, this I don't know if it's a good or bad thing yet, but this Big Four is really changing the way football looks because I can't see Aston Villa or Newcastle or Brighton or whatever compete with Chelsea now at this point. Like, those other teams are just hoping that these guys can do good enough in the Champions League that they'll get a 5th spot and they can fight for the scraps. But I just don't see how a front four, again, Simons, Gittins, Pedro, and Palmer, how anyone can compete with that. And then they have Caicedo, one of the best defensive midfielders in the league. Some would say the best. And they just signed Joao Hato, who a backup for CoDaKrew. They're probably also going to develop him into a center back, which is also going to be strong as well. The only issue really is just Robert Sanchez. They probably want to get a better goalkeeper there, but very good squad depth. They have Malo Gusto as a backup, bro. Like, that's crazy. So yeah, I mean, I think they're easily top 4. It's really, the question is, where do you arrange these 4 teams? And you could even have Chelsea higher, and I wouldn't even necessarily be that mad at it.
Yeah, no, I agree. They could break 3rd. Yeah, they could break it into.
I think 4th is like the safe option. That's just why
it is. That's what it is. Yeah, just because again, like all these teams have had great transfer activity, and it's just like Chelsea were a bit further behind, and so I think it's reasonable to say that they stay a bit further behind. But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe like they've still got a great base here, so maybe next season they can manage to break in. 3rd place.
We're not doing the 3-2-1 anymore because I think I have strong opinions on this, and if you don't agree with me, I'm going to argue with you. I'm just letting you know now. 3rd place, you tell me.
3rd place, Arsenal.
Wrong answer. Wrong answer.
3 straight seasons finishing 2nd in the league. Arsenal, they are done being nearly men. Unfortunately, I think they will be heading in the wrong direction. You have Gyökeres, of course, gives them a proper 9, strong, mobile, deadly in those tight spaces. No more false 9s, no more Jesus drifting. Arsenal have finally got a penalty box presence. I think it is good for them. It'll open things up for Saka.
Then how is it the wrong direction then? How is that the wrong direction then?
Because Man City have also done quite a lot this transfer window. And on it, like I assure you,
they also lost Kevin De Bruyne. They also lost one of the best midfielder in Premier League history.
I assure you, it was not easy for me to make this decision. I think at some point, something has to give. Arsenal have got to drop out of runners-up, and either they're going to be 3rd or they're going to be 1st. And I think you know who I have in 1st. Right, it can't be Arsenal. So in that, like, I just don't think 4 times runners up. No, I'm sorry.
Why not?
I don't.
I
can't see.
Wasn't it Albert Einstein had said insanity is doing the same thing over
I
and over
think
again?
it would be.
expecting
I
different
think it
results.
would be better for the Arsenal fans to finally get a break from being runners up and let another team take that position than end up,
Dude,
in
if
second.
there's an Arsenal fan that's somehow still watching 2 hours in or whatever we're at this point, comment down below. Would you rather finish second or third?
Let them do
God.
something in like a cup
Surely,
competition, man.
there's
let
no
them,
okay.
Let them go for like a cup competition and
It's
drop
not
to third.
third. It's not third. It's not second and no cups. Yes, third and Carabao or something. That's not what we're saying here.
Okay. I don't know. I just can't see it holding. I'm sorry, I just can't. I'm like it's a great roster. Like I said, all of these teams top 4 have had great activity. I have to see City coming back. I don't know. They've been such a dominant team, and I just get the feeling they will, like, after their massive crash out in the middle of last season, I just get the feeling they've got to get their get back. I don't know. And I think that's going to be, they'll manage something this season. We'll see if they win it. I haven't said my second, my first, but I think something's just got to give. Arsenal are not going to be runners up anymore. And do I think they're going to be champions? No. Maybe they do play second again. But I think they break the streak this time around, just maybe not in a good way.
Again, I'm not saying whether I have Arsenal in second or first, but I just think that when you sign Victor Gyökeres, that's the biggest problem that Arsenal have had for so long, not having a striker. And we've talked about a lot in that TTT video from a few weeks ago. I just can't see them doing worse than last year. I just can't see it. So, yeah, City is going to be my third place team. And again, they've made good signings, Tiani Reinders and Ryan Cherky in the midfield. But you have to fill Kevin De Bruyne's shoes, bro. Like, it doesn't matter who you sign, that's always going to be a big role to fill. And then there's still like questionable decisions that they're making. Why is Mateus Nunes seeming like he's going to once again be the starting right back for your team when he is a midfielder? And meanwhile, your like backup right back is who? I don't even know. So there's just too many question marks about this team. I think with the system of offensive fullbacks that they're playing, Nori and Nunez, why? Doku will be able to cut in more. Savini will cut in more. It will allow players like Marmoush and Cherky to fill in those roles as well as like second strikers almost. So City will do better than last year, I think. I think points wise they'll do better than last year, but I think all of these teams points wise will do better than last year. So that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll beat out the Liverpools and the Arsenals. So for me, Man City is going to stay in third.
Okay. Yeah, no, I've got City in second, and again, like, really tough decision for me to make here. You've kinda got me wavering. I don't know, but
Nice.
I can't see Arsenal 4 times in a row runners up. I'm sorry. It's maybe not even like a logical decision. This honestly is not, because the transfers are so like similar. The transfer windows are great for both these teams. It's not even about transfers for me at this point. It's just vibes. And it's like I don't think I don't think the Gunners are gonna vibe with finishing second again. I think just
that's true. You're not wrong.
Them be third.
Yeah.
Just let them be third and rid them from this purgatory that they're in. I would rather see that. You know, like a couple years back when I was properly getting into football and I was watching club stuff and not just like World Cup whenever it came up, I was choosing between Liverpool and Arsenal as my teams to support.
You made the right
because
choice. Oh, God.
Liverpool was the team my family supports. I can't tell you why that is. I know I have an uncle that lives around there somewhere in Merseyside, but Arsenal. I really wanted Arsenal to stop just placing second and like finally win something. I don't know. Get a trophy, finally get another Prem title. I had to choose between those two teams. I chose Liverpool. Maybe ultimately in the couple years term, it was a good decision. Arsenal, runners up 4 times in a row. I'm sorry, I Damn.
You know what? You're right. They won't be runners up 4 times in a row. Because Liverpool will be second. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. But second place, I have Man City. Again, it's maybe completely illogical. It's just like I feel like Man City has got to get their get back, and that I think they're going to manage it this season.
Yeah. I mean, I know. I just think I'm refusing to yield to logical fallacies here.
I mean, like, they have Gyökeres. I get it. They have Gyökeres. So I completely understand if you have
also,
them.
they might still sign Eze. Like, that's still on the table.
You've got a good point. But, like, I know they're filling their gaps. I just... 4 times. I need to emphasize this.
City won the Prem 4 times in a row.
4 times. I'm sorry. I can't deal with that. No.
All right. Well then, that means winning the league.
maybe I just still have like a bit of a place in my heart for Arsenal.
Yeah.
No.
So that means our 2026 Premier League champions, by unanimous decision on the CoDaKrew podcast.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, meanwhile, my club languishes in the championship. It seems like Liverpool will finally get their back-to-back. When's the last time Liverpool went back-to-back? It has to have been like 40 years or something at least.
It would have been in like the 80s. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was right then. Nice. Okay.
Exactly. Well, because that's the last time that we were really winning titles at all, though. That's the thing.
Your last one was like... I thought your last one was like 1990.
Was it in the... No, I don't think it was in the 90s. Because that was like right before Prem started.
Was it not 89-90?
Oh, you know what? Yeah, it might have been 89-90.
See? Ball knowledge. That's ball knowledge right here. Come on.
That's
ball knowledge.
Okay.
Respect.
Okay, no, 89-90 maybe, yeah. Dude, what is there even to say about Liverpool? Like, again, all of these teams have had
one of the best teams in the world just broke the British transfer record. Is going to break the British transfer record again in a few days. Also replaced their fullbacks.
Remind me. Yeah?
This team had the player with the most goals last year. The most assists last year, the same guy, that was Mo Salah.
Yeah.
They had the young player of the year, Ryan Gravenberch. They walked the league over by April, if not mathematically, practically over by April. And now they're going on and signing Hugo Ekitike for $90 million as a backup. As a backup! Dude, you guys are like the new Man City. This is Man City reincarnate. One oil money vs Palantir, I don't even know. You guys are American, right? American owners. Maybe they were investing in Palantir.
It's Fenway Sports Group. Yeah, same guys that own the Red Sox. So okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know how Boston is doing in the MLB. Maybe it's just like taking all of their luck and we're giving it to Liverpool. Yeah.
Well, this is a better sport, so that's fine. It's fine by me. I respect it.
I will say, the last time we did 2 in a row, because like you were saying that earlier, it was, I think at the start of the 80s, we had 81, 82, 82, 83, 83, 84. There were like also some gaps after where we wouldn't win one season before that, after that, and then we'd like win again after that. Anyways, 3 in a row, maybe we can do it again. Maybe we make it 4.
Dude, if this works, this is the 3-0. This is the treble-winning side potentially. If all of these transfers work out, this is the best team in the world easily.
I'm just thinking how.
Don't be modest. It's fine.
I'm just thinking like how good of a decision I made those like couple years ago when I decided to support Liverpool over Arsenal.
Man.
Okay.
Well,
it's yeah, that's our table done, I guess.
I'm shocked by how much we agreed.
Yeah, no, and it's like, oh, maybe I have the same teams as you, just like one place offset from yours.
Like I really expected. I thought you were gonna clown me for having Brighton and Everton so high, but you had them. You had Everton higher than me. So.
And again, it's like the way we're agreeing with all these teams, it almost makes it seem like it's consensus. But if you look at other prediction videos,
it's not consensus.
It's not.
It's really, bro. I swear, I've seen people online say Liverpool's going to finish third this year, which I don't understand at all. That makes no sense to me.
Florian Wirtz, Ekitike, and Isak. We're just signing everyone from everywhere.
To be fair, there is a world where that doesn't work out because you're just signing too many players.
That's true. It's like a Chelsea
Salah
type
and
thing.
Gakpo just can't operate properly. Wirtz doesn't have the space to. There's like the Madrid, like the Bellingham situation where he just doesn't have the freedom to be the playmaker that he can be. But I mean, if you're smart, like Ekitike and Isak are not going to be on at the same time.
Right.
I've seen people online try to explain how they can set that up tactically, but it doesn't
you don't
make any
need
sense.
to. That's the thing.
There's no.
Yeah.
Need. I mean,
It's
this
like-
team.
Remember what I said?
Darwin
Remember
Núñez.
what I said earlier? I'm thinking it was the Chelsea TTD video, right? Where I said, Xavi Simons. It's like an interesting pick, but maybe it's kind of like more of a stockpiling talent move. This is a stockpiling.
This
talent
is dog
move right
value.
here.
This is
It's-
gluttony here.
It's like we're gonna so we're speaking to Newcastle. It's like we're gonna take Jovic, Ekitike is ours. While we're at it, we're gonna take the striker you already have, and we'll play him. And Ekitike is sitting on the bench waiting there whenever he needs. So we've got both your guys as our 1 and 2, and you have nothing. You have nothing. Now.
This is late stage capitalism explained in football terms. How do you like, bro?
Everything for Liverpool, and 10 points deduction to Everton.
Yeah, 10 points deduction to Everton for existing. I don't know.
Right. Okay, man. This is definitely I think it's our longest video yet on this channel. Yeah, probably beats the previous predictions you guys had for last season.
That was like weird because we didn't know what we were doing at the time. So we did like a predictions video, and then we were talking about like the Olympics or something at the same time for whatever reason.
You were on I remember you were on like Tier Maker, right? And I think
We were on
just throwing
Tier
all the
Maker.
teams in.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, not bad, and I think this is gonna end up like an hour 40 minutes. Honestly, shorter than I expected to
I'm not
be.
gonna lie.
We were thinking like 2 hours. So, okay. Thank you though for everyone who stuck around this long. I don't think we said it at the start of the video. If you have been watching us previously, you will notice a bit of a difference here, right?
Really? Different? What difference? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I don't know. Something feels different to me. Anyways,
You're right. I can't put my finger on it, but it's something.
I guess this
different.
is how our videos are gonna look from now on, I suppose. But yeah, if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, give us a like, comment, whatever you prefer, and stay tuned because we're gonna have content for the when the Prem season starts. We've got a game going very similar to what we did last season, where we're just predicting how each match week is going to go. The point system is going to be a bit different, but we hope you'll stay tuned.
We'll explain it later, but yeah.
We'll explain it when that first episode comes, but we hope you'll stay tuned because I think that's going to be quite a fun series.